There are crumbling buildings across our city. Some of these are listed. They are very important, both emotionally and economically to the city. They're also historically important, some of them, in terms of having unique features, for instance, or representing an important social moment.
And you've identified the need for £325 million of funding over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's right. When you look at that sum of money, which is nearly our entire general fund for a year, it becomes very clear that we can't solve that problem on our own. Now, really, you could say that everyone's known that for a long time, and that would be true, because there are so many important buildings, and important either by their social context, the moment that they were built, their role in the productive forces, or their wonderful architectural significance. There are so many of them that it's out of the grasp of a local council to be able to sort it out. Now, I'm not saying that if better decisions hadn't been made 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be in a better position now, but I am saying that in the here and now, we can't solve this alone. We think it's not a problem that is just for Stoke-on-Trent. We think it is a problem for the country, and that's why we called the emergency.
What will be lost if these sites disappear?
I think what we're talking about when we're talking about Stoke-on-Trent's heritage, particularly the buildings, we're talking about places where grand things happened. For instance, in the Price Kensington old Teapot Factory, as we call it, that was really the first proper factorisation of production of many toilets of ware, but particularly the teapots. Those brown ones that you may remember your grandma had if you're from Britain, they come from there. Okay. They're important. There are other buildings with equal significance for instance, the Leopard Pub in Burslem, where the first lot of, let's call them plotters, got together to decide that they were going to build canals, that they were going to really enhance the factory system. You had Wedgwood there, you had Darwin there. This is a big place, and the fact that it's now gone up in flames and is held together by bracing scaffolding is a national problem.
Why would you say Stoke-on-Trent is facing a greater challenge than other places with heritage?
I'm not looking for a fight with anyone to say which city has got the most vandalism by neglect. What I am saying is that we can't handle this alone, and we need national help to do it. There will be other places, probably equally poor in revenue terms, which have this or that building which needs work and they can't do it on their own, and I'm sure that's true. And they may have several buildings, but we have such a concentration of them.
There must be a good call for Stoke-on-Trent to have international help as well, not just national help. Is that fair?
I think that's true. The pottery industry, without a doubt, the higher end of it, if you like, the luxury to premium brands, have got massive international respect. A lot of their sales are exports. They're recognised as key, well, it's recognised as being the world centre of ceramics and particularly tableware.
How central is this heritage to the identity of the city today?
When you talk to people who live in Stoke-on-Trent, you will find that many long-standing families, the vast majority, will have some connection, particularly to either the pottery industry, the pot banks as we call them. They worked in them, their parents worked in them, or if that's not the case, then within touching distance, a previous generation worked in them. They were a source of massive pride. And to be able to say, we're just letting them all die off, is an insult to people's sense of self and to their family tradition. There's another side of the buildings too, which is that when the city was prosperous, it had a fantastic nightlife, a fantastic cultural life.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to walk around the town of Burslem, one of the 6 towns that make up Stoke-on-Trent City, without finding people saying to you, it's such a shame that the Queen's Theatre is in a bad way now and hasn't been used for a long time because they remember going to pantomimes when they were a child or going to see bands there as they headed into their teenage and 20s. It matters to people's sense of self, matters to the local economy too. It matters in so many ways.
It must shape how Stoke-on-Trent is perceived from outside of the city.
I think there's truth in it. If you look at the... it's hard to say what people really and genuinely think about us, but I think it's fair to say that people know we are now a poor city, and they know that many of our key buildings are in deep trouble. So I think in that sense, people from... See, the way I look at it is, if we had a lot of money, we could make some of the parts of the city with a great concentration of heritage buildings, we could make them into fantastic world-class visiting sites. Take, for instance, Burslem. When we talk about Burslem could be a UNESCO World Heritage Site, we mean it. We mean it. Within the town's central square, there are 4 or 5 buildings which are really important. Yeah, Burslem has got 4 or 5 buildings on the at-risk register, and they're all highly socially and architecturally significant. It's not fantasy to say that with a huge investment, we couldn't take seriously the possibility of turning Burslem into a World Heritage Site. And it's so far from that now, it probably seems far-fetched, but I don't think it is. I think Stoke-on-Trent's history is pots, pits and steel. And Chatwit, as we call Chatterley Whitfield, was a major productive colliery, massive employer of people locally and massively productive. It's died. Keeping together the significant parts of the site is being done by a group of primarily volunteers, and they're doing a great job with that. But it's also, I think, probably true to say that the site could become a new industrial centre. There's warmed water that flows underneath it from the mining heritage, and that's got to be able to be used, I think, to reduce energy costs. Personally, I would like to see green energy factories on that site to make clear the connection between the black coal and the green energy of the future. There are considerations taking place. At this minute, we can't say that anything is definite because it isn't.
What do these sites represent in terms of the people who built and worked in them? You've touched on that already.
Yeah. We have one listed building, again in Burslem, that was badly fired and probably needs to come down. We're not going to do that without talking to the people who used to work there. It was such a major part of their life that it would be simply rude and disrespectful not to involve them in deciding what should happen to that building. My guess is the conversation would result in some kind of monument to that former pot bank and to the people that work there. It matters to people because when they worked in the pot banks, or their parents or their grandparents did, they were producing world-class material. It was the best in the world. And you can't just forget that that used to happen. You can't let it drag you down in terms of looking to the future, but equally, to dismiss it would be, well, another form of vandalism, I think. I doubt it's possible to rescue every building. There are some which really do appear to be beyond a viable investment strategy. I think deciding which ones to work on is not just about public opinion, it's about opportunity. If people come to us and say, we want that building, we want to use it for this, then it's come in, have a cup of tea, have a biscuit, let's talk about it. So it's about opportunity.
It must be difficult for you as leader to approach these decisions as to what to say.
A council leader is an ordinary normal councillor elected by universal plebiscite, as is all other councillors, and the dominant party group in each council area chooses its leader, and the group with the most councillors represented within the council as a whole becomes the leader of the city council. I was first elected in 2019 and I became leader of the council in 2023.
How does your role differ from that of the chief executive in a situation like the National Heritage Emergency that we're here to discuss?
The basic division is that the councillors set the strategy and the officers implement it. So, for instance, I couldn't get involved in, let's say, a disciplinary matter between staff and the organisation as a whole, for instance. Or, for instance, I couldn't get involved in saying, we want the potholes fixed in this area before that area. It needs to be assessed on a professional scientific basis of prioritisation. The chief executive will contribute to strategy because they know things. They know things that it's quite conceivable that us elected politicians don't know, and we would be foolish not to take them into account. But fundamentally, we decide strategy, they implement. Well, that's true, but there is a very strong planning framework we work in. It's not my decision about whether or not a building could be delisted and demolished, for instance. That belongs to the heritage agencies in the country to give their opinion and advice. And it would be a very brave local authority that ignored that.
Why should someone outside of Stoke-on-Trent care about this issue?
Stoke-on-Trent is a cradle of the Industrial Revolution. So many things began here. That's why we matter. We also matter because we're all custodians of our past. It's a form of civic respect to say we accept the stewardship of these buildings as part of our duty. We're not Philistines, we're not barbarians. We recognise their importance to the history and to the future, and therefore we need help to sort out these buildings.
How can you make this a story with international relevance?
I think it would be a rare person who has enough resources to go to restaurants, to go to museums, that hasn't seen or touched some Staffordshire pottery in particular. Therefore, the reach of particularly Stoke-on-Trent pottery is global. That's why it matters.
Yeah. Have you had a good response?
Yes. I think it's true to say that people in the city know that we have to deal with these buildings and they want to deal with the buildings. There will be a belief that, oh, you're just trying something different this time because you couldn't get it working last time. And there's truth in that. We are trying a new angle to see if this one works better. We cannot do it alone. That's why there's a national emergency, and people in the city know that.
If a company, for example, or individual watching this clip wants to support or get involved, what should they do?
They should find us. I don't think there will be any difficulty doing that. You can contact us through the website and we're happy to talk. One of the most lively opportunities that's surfacing at the moment is to do with Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yes.
Now, Lemmy was born in Stoke-on-Trent, and there are a group of people in the city who are extremely able in a lot of ways, and they've formed a group which is, first of all, it put together a statue of Lemmy in the town square, and they're trying to take over...
That's in Burslem, isn't it? I think in Burslem, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And just behind the statue is the Queen's Theatre, which I talked of earlier.
Yeah.
The plan is for the Lemmy guys to take over Queen's Theatre and run it as, let's call it a music community centre and recording studio. It might not happen, it's going to take a lot of money, but we've met with Lemmy's Californian-based managing company, managing his rights, and the conversation's ongoing. However, we still need to reach many millions of a fundraising target that's still got to be all sorted out.
Yes, a big task. Councillor Jane Ashworth, leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The sister video to this is my interview on the same day with John Rouse,
the Chief Executive of Stoke-on-Trent Council.
Well, I suppose if we were in
Click the link to watch this video next.
United States, for example, they tend to be called the city manager.
Thanks for watching.